name's Major Good. I'm the Behavioral Health Consultant for the 6th Recruiting Brigade, and I'm going to make a series of about 3 videos focused on emotion coping and emotion regulation. Now, in this first video, I'm going to be laying the groundwork for these other videos and talking about what emotions are and why they matter and why they're of value. And some people may ask, well, why? Who cares? Well, it's because in order to manage and regulate your emotions well, you need to understand how they work. It's kind of like if you're going to maintain your equipment well, you need some functional understanding of how the vehicle or how the weapon works in order to keep it in tip-top condition. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is the definition of an emotion? Well, emotions are hard to define, and science hasn't come up with a great definition of it, but probably the one that I find most useful is this, and it's a complex physical and mental experience which supplies an individual with important information about themselves, others, and their environment. An emotional expression also communicates information to others. So, that doesn't do much for me, right? Kind of falling asleep listening to that. But let's break it down and simplify it, and I'm going to try and deconstruct that a bit into a couple important points that we'll go through. So, important fact number 1 about emotion is, at its most basic, an emotion is information. It's information that's so vital that without emotional information, we as human beings do nothing. We literally sit as lumps on a log with no thoughts, no behaviors at all. In fact, there's been lots of research into this, and if you're interested in that, there's some great books. One's called Descartes' Error. There's a neurologist called Antonio Damasio who's pretty well known. Look into their stuff. It's fascinating. But we don't have time to go into it all today. So the reason I bring that up is that this whole idea that if we were just less emotional and more rational, we would somehow be better off, is just patently false and completely incorrect. We as human beings need our emotions. They're important to our functioning. We're stuck with them, and so we need to learn how to manage them and regulate them effectively. Okay? So, important fact number 2 is that emotions are best understood, in my opinion, as a math equation. And the equation is E equals ST, or situation plus thoughts equals an emotion. Okay? So, to illustrate this, I think it's best done with a story. So, we're going to take a little bit of a break here, try and make this video a little more interesting so you don't just have to sit here and stare at me the whole time. And we're going to take a cut, hopefully in an entertaining and professional way, to Major Mini-Me. Hello everyone, it's Major Mini-Me here to tell you a story. So, let's say that you're walking through the woods, all alone, just because you're cool like that. And you come around a corner and you see a giant grizzly bear barreling towards you. What emotion do you feel? Well, that should be obvious, but before answering that question, let's talk about the equation. You have a situation. I'm all alone in the woods with a large, angry-looking bear. And you have thoughts. Now, by thoughts, we mean beliefs, values, and expectations. So, for an example, a belief would be something like, I got no help coming, I'm all alone. Or, this is really going to suck and this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt bad. All right? So, values. I want to live. Or, I have a spouse and 3 kids. Or an expectation. I'm going to die. Okay, so those beliefs, values, and expectations are what we mean when we talk about thoughts. So in this case, alone with a bear in the woods, expecting to die, the emotion of fear is likely to be very large. You have 2 big things. I'm alone in the woods with a bear, and I have thoughts and beliefs that I'm going to die. Okay? Now, let's imagine this grizzly bear continues to charge, runs right past you, and jumps in the river and begins to play. Now what emotion do you feel? You're probably going to feel shock, confusion, all kinds of different emotions, because your expectation about what was going to happen was just violated, and your mind is rapidly trying to adapt, and your emotions are changing to try and keep up with your changing situation. Now, in this period, you take advantage to scurry away and find some safety, okay? Now, imagine that you're not the brightest and you walk the same trail through the deep dark forest every day for the next 10 days. Every day the bear charges out of the woods, runs right by you, and jumps in the river. Now, day 11 comes along. You're walking down the trail. The bear comes running out of the woods. The situation's the same, alone with a bear in the woods, but likely your thoughts are going to be different this time. So what emotion do you feel? you're not likely to feel the same level or intensity of fear that you felt that first time. You're probably going to have some fear. After all, it's still a wild grizzly bear in the woods, but other emotions are likely going to dominate this situation, this context. For example, you might feel curious, annoyed, or you may feel some budding affection or some building relationship with this bear you see every single day. There will be different emotions, not just fear. So as you can see, an emotion is a combination of situation and thoughts. Now, we have very little control over an emotion once it's produced. After all, it's the equals side of the equation, or the product. We can't just wish away fear because we don't like it. And in this situation, that would be really dumb and dangerous. We need that fear to keep us alive and prepare our body with that adrenaline so we can get away or escape. Now, to change an emotion, we have to change what's being added together. We have to change our situation, or we have to change our thoughts. And that's an important point. I want you to remember that.